If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from Elo! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. We're going to chat with him about what we've been seeing here in the last few weeks of the baseball season. We're going to be talking about what's been hot, what's been cold, and the fades that we've been getting here in this college basketball season. So that is going to be a whole bunch of good, clean family fun. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And while I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered over by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is making sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 in leap years, 366 days out of the year, because they want to make sure that bettors, they're able to just get everything approved. They're not running on credit or anything like that. This is a bank account that you're able to utilize anywhere, anytime. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize that promo code of Greg. That is GREG. That gets you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The form of sorcery that the Colorado Rockies used to be able to get the job done against the Arizona Diamondbacks is one that I don't know if we've ever seen. 14-12. The Colorado Rockies find a way to get the job done. They were averaging 2.2 runs per game on the road prior to this one, and for Colorado, they were able to belt out a bunch of home runs as Kyle Farmer goes deep for a second home run of the campaign. Hunter Goodman, his 7th. Jordan Beck goes deep twice, 7th and 8th home runs of the campaign, and Ezekiel Tovar, home run number 1 of the season as Esteban Marquez, not long for this game, 7 runs, 5 of which were earned, give it up in 3 innings. Anel Shavili from there gives up a pair of bombs. He gives up 3 runs in total over the course of his inning of work as going deep off of him, and Eugenio Suarez, his 14th home run of the season, and Alec Thomas, his 1st home run of the season. But from there, Jake Bird, he gives the bird with 2 innings pitched, gives up a run. Zach Ognos has scoreless inning, Seth Halverson has scoreless inning, and Tyler Kinley gives up a run in his inning of work. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Zach Allen, well, he got filled up for a bunch of runs, 6 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. Jalen Beeks from there, 4 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. 2/3 of an inning from Ryan Thompson. He gave up 3 runs. You had Kendall Graveman come in. He gave up a run in an inning, and you had Kevin Ginkel be able to give you 1 out of the bullpen scoreless, and Juan Murillo, he goes for 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless himself. For the LA Angels, they go on the road and they get the job done against the Dodgers. And they take this series 11-9, the final, as for the Angels, a trio of home runs as you had Logan Hoppe get his 10th home run of the season, Taylor Ward his 11th, and then how about home run number 3 from Matthew Lugo? As for the LA Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw, not a good start in this one. 5 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. From there, Ben Casparis gives up 2 runs in 2 1/3 innings. Luis Garcia not out of the bullpen scoreless. Tanner Scott, a scoreless inning, and Alex Vesia, he does give up a solo home run in his inning work. And for the LA Dodgers, he did have a pair of bombs in this one as Tyler Anderson gives up both to Andy Paz, 9th home run season, and then Kike Hernandez, his 7th for Anderson, gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. But from there, Hector Neris, not a single out of the bullpen. He allows 3 runs, but that might have been the good luck charm as you had Mr. Reed Detmers, Ryan Zephyrian, and Ken Lee Jansen both go and give you a scoreless inning, and you were able to get a lot of scoreless innings from the Minnesota Twins. 7-0. They take down the Milwaukee Brewers as for the Brewers, they just were not able to get any offense whatsoever generated in this. And for the Minnesota Twins, they were able to do a nice job in terms of getting to Tobias Myers. 4 runs allowed by Myers in 3 2/3 innings. He allowed 11 hits along the way. Going deep for the Minnesota Twins in this one, Cody Clemens, his 3rd home run of the campaign, and Ryan Jeffers, his 3rd home run of the season. And for Pablo Lopez, 6 scoreless innings. Justin Topa, Oriel Cala, Cody Funderburk, they all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Brewers, the bullpen was not terrible. Yo Piamps gives up a run in an inning. Tyler Alexander, a run in an inning. Rob Zanofsky, he gives you 2 scoreless innings. And then Grant Anderson, he does give up a solo home run in his 1 1/3 innings of work. And for the Boston Red Sox, they were able to rally against the Atlanta Braves. This by a count of 7-6 as the Atlanta Braves were up 6-2. In this one, they were able to get home runs from Drake Baldwin, his 5th home run of the campaign, Matt Olson, his 9th, and Marcell Ozuna, his 7th, off of Lucas Giolito, who gives up 6 runs in 4 innings. But from there, Nick Birdie, 2 scoreless innings, Brandon Bernardino, Garrett Woodlock, Aroldis Chapman, all end a scoreless inning, and pair of bombs from Boston as Rafael Devers walk-off homer off of Pierce Johnson, 8th home run of the season, and Jaron Duran, he gets home run number 3 of the campaign as for Grant Holmes, gives up just 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. From there, though, Aaron Bummer, he lived up to the name, a 1/3 of an inning, gave up 2 runs. Aña de los Santos, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Rafael Montero, more like Rafael Montero Bull, puts a pair of men on base, and then Pierce Johnson gives up that winning home run to Mr. Rafael Devers, so that was a bit of an issue. And then you had the San Francisco Giants in 10 innings take it to the Athletics by a count of 1-0 as Luis Severino, 6 scoreless innings, Justin Cerner, 2 scoreless innings, Tyler Ferguson, a scoreless inning, and Mason Miller, he gives a walk-off walk in the 10th inning as he walked the bases loaded. And for the A's, they go just 1 of 10 with men in scoring position as Landon Roop, 6 scoreless innings before Randy Rodriguez, Taylor Rogers, Ryan Walker, and Camilo Duvall are all able to lend a scoreless inning and being able to lend quite a few scoreless innings as well. How about the Seattle Mariners being able to get the job done by a count of 4-1 over the Slam Diego Padres as Emerson Hancock allows a solo run in 4 2/3 innings going deep off of him. It was Gavin Sheets' 6th home run season. Nick Pivetta gave up a solo run of his own over the course of 6 innings to Rowdy Tellez, 8th home run season. Then Cal Raleigh, big dumper, 15th home run season. That comes off of Adrian Morejon, who gives up that solo run in a 1/3 of an inning. Jeremiah Estrada, 2/3 of an inning, scoreless. Jason Adam, he was able to lend a scoreless inning, but Alec Jacob gives up 2 runs in a 1/3 of an inning. Yuki Matsui, he gives you a pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless. Meanwhile, for the Seattle Mariners, you had Gabe Spire along Casey Lugumina combined for 2 scoreless innings. Andres Munoz for outs out the bullpen scoreless, and Matt Brash, he was able to give a scoreless inning as well. New York Mets are able to get the job done by a count of 3-2 against the New York Yankees as for the Yankees, just not a lot doing at the plate. You had a relatively good start out of Griffin Canning. 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 1/3 innings. Those 2 runs were solo home runs. DJ Turn It Up LeMahieu, welcome back. 1st home run of the season, and Cody Bellinger, his 6th. For Clark Schmidt, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Mark Leiter Jr. from there, a scoreless inning. Tim Mill, Fernando Cruz, they combined for 2 innings with Cruz giving up a run in the 9th inning, so that was a little bit costly. And for the New York Mets, the bullpen was able to be rock solid. Oscar Brazoba and 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Reed Garrett and Edwin Diaz, they both lend a scoreless inning as well. Lots of scoreless innings out there in Toronto as the Blue Jays, they get a 2-1 win over the Tigers as Reese Olson, good start here. He allows 1 hit in 6 scoreless innings. From there, you had Bo Brisky come in, get an out of the bullpen scoreless. You had Tyler Holton give up a run in an inning. Will Vest, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. And then Brendan Endefee, he allows the game-winning run as you had Mr. Ernie Clement be able to get a walk-off single in the 9th inning for Toronto. And lone run of the game for the Detroit Tigers, a Spencer Torkelson home run off of Erica Lauer, his 12th home run of the campaign. Lauer pretty much a opener in this game, giving up a solo run over the course of 3 innings, and then everyone else does their part. Brandon Little, Chad Green, Yimi Garcia, Jeff Hoffman all lend a scoreless inning, and Uriel Rodriguez, he was able to supply 2 scoreless innings of his own. For the Chicago Cubs, they're able to hit the under at home, but they do so by being able to take down the Chicago White Sox by a count of 7-3 as Sean Burke's command was not great in this one. 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, given up in 4 2/3 innings, walking 5 and giving up a bomb to Mr. Dansby Swanson. 10th home run of the campaign. Matthew Boyd much better in this one. 3 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Did allow a pair of home runs. Going deep for the Southsiders, you had Timothy Elko get his 2nd home run of the season, and Chase Meredith, he was able to get his 1st home run of the campaign. From there, Brad Keller, Daniel Palencia, Porter Hodge, they were all able to supply a scoreless inning. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they were able to go on the road. They take down the Miami Marlins this by a count of 4-0 as for the Miami Marlins, this has been one of your best home over teams all season long, but starting to dry up a little bit more with regards to home overs. That's out 14 overs and 10 unders, so they're still making you some money at home, but they weren't able to do their part at the plate as Drew Rasmussen, very rock solid, 6 scoreless innings. Edwin Uceta, Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks, they all lend a scoreless inning, and for Miami, you had Sandy Alcantara give up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. Lake Bakar, a scoreless scoreless inning from there, and then he did have 3 scoreless innings out of Cade Gibson, so I was able to help them out, but that was a little bit too little too late, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, their offense was a little bit too little too late. 5-2, they lose to the Philadelphia Phillies as Carmen Molodzinski, 3 1/3 innings, allows 4 runs, including a home run to Bryson Stott, 4th home run of the campaign. From there, the bullpen was actually fine. Caleb Ferguson, Tanner Rainey, Chase Shulgert, all on the scoreless inning. Joey Wentz, 5 outs out of the bullpen, he allows a run, and for Brian Reynolds, he was able to put up a home run off of Tanner Banks in the 9th inning, 6th home run of the campaign. As for the Phillies, Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler, well, he was wheeling and he was dealing. 6 scoreless innings. Matt Strom, Carlos Hernandez both turned a scoreless inning, and then Mr. Banks, he gives up 2 runs over the course of his inning of work for the Washington Nationals. They take down the Baltimore Orioles, who they relieved Brandon Hyde of his duties prior to the start of the game. If you ask me, Mike Elias should be canned of his duties, but that's it for Washington. Jake Irvin give up 2 runs over the course of 6 1/3 innings. Jose Ferrer from there, he gets 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. He did have Zach Brzezinski give up 4 runs in his inning of work, including a home run going deep. Jackson Holiday, he was able to get home run number 5 of the campaign, and for Kyle Gibson, now he's rocking a 16.78 ERA. He gives up 6 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Charlie Morton actually not bad in long relief. 4 1/3 innings, he allows a run. Ciano Perez, he was able to go for 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Ynier Cano gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, and Sir Anthony Dominguez, 2/3 of an inning, he allows 2 runs of his own. So that was relatively rough, as the Nationals don't even get a home run in this game, but the Cincinnati Reds, they got a home run win, 4-1. They're able to take down the Cleveland Guardians, and for the Guardians, he did have a solo shot from Daniel Sneeman, his 6th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Lyon Richardson, but that'll be their lone run of the game. As for Cincinnati, Brent Suter pretty much started a bullpen game, 3 scoreless innings out of him. From there, Lyon Richardson gives up that home run in 2 innings of work, and from there, you also had Tony Santin, Emilio Pagan, Graham Ashcraft, Louis May, all lend a scoreless inning, and for Cincinnati, pair of bombs. Reese Hines, 2nd home run of the campaign, that comes off of Jacob Junis, and Slade Sassoni got the start, and he allowed a home run to Will Benson, his 3rd home run of the campaign. For Sassoni, gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, Cade Smith was able to end a scoreless inning. Emmanuel Clase, Joey Cantillo, they combine for a scoreless inning, and Jacob Junis, he does allow a run in his inning work. And in this work, you were able to find this team be able to get the job done. As for the Texas Rangers, they do take down the Houston Astros. Now, do note that I have to do this for midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and I do have the show cashing out on VSiN to do so. This is done a little bit in advance, but Ronald Blanco, he gives up 3 runs over the course of his 6 innings of work, including a home run, as you did have Mr. Jock Peterson get his 2nd home run of the campaign, and then Wyatt Langford off of Bennett Sosa, his 9th home run of the campaign. For Sosa, he gives up 2 runs over the course of his inning of work, and for Texas, you did have Tyler Mahle give another nice start here. 6 scoreless innings, Jacob Webb, Chris Martin. From there, they're able to come in out of the bullpen. They get the job done, and also getting the job done, the St. Louis Cardinals. Another win for them. This one, 1-0, as Jordan Walker, the lone run in this game, he gets home run number 3 of the campaign. That comes off of Noah Cameron, who gives up that solo run in 6 1/3 innings. Steven Cruz, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Anel Zerpa, a scoreless inning. And for Miles Michaelis, he just continues to be great. 6 scoreless innings in this one. Kyle Agee, 2 scoreless innings. And then Ryan Helsley, he's able to close things out in the 9th inning as well. And if you're taking a look at what we're getting trend-wise in baseball, this is with some of the late games pending for Saturday, but that's at favorites. They're hitting at about 59.3% on the money line this year, 398 and 273 on the money line. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the unders, they're hitting at 52.3%, 337 unders to 307 overs. Now, note once again that we've got a few games for Saturday to wrap up, but favorites hitting at just 51.2% on the money line over the last 7 days, 44 and 42. Meanwhile, the under very much hitting like wildfire, 47 unders to 33 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do talk with our good friend Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bet Show right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Pieces Family Podcast.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as Rob Donaldson. He does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. He is joining me as he does a tremendous job on the baseball front, but additionally, when it's in season, he does an amazing job with regards to being able to gauge and handicap college basketball as well. You're able to follow him on Twitter/X at RobDFB altogether. And Rob, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. And we keep talking about it every week, but, this baseball season has a lot of different storylines going for it right now. There also is a ton of parity, which I think is just great for the sport in general. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it with you.
I am as well, because it has been a wonky first 2 months of the season. And I feel like I've talked with this about you quite a bit, but it just keeps coming back to it. I think the best thing in baseball is the fades out there, because whichever team is going to be able to win/lose, that's one thing. But we know that the Rockies are going to lose. The Orioles have been pretty good at losing thus far this season, and so have been the Chicago White Sox. I feel like those three teams, if you did absolutely nothing but fade them, take a look at their team totals under, you'd be doing amazing this season.
Yeah, and even on kind of the vice versa side of that, or the other side of the coin, you got the Twins, who may never lose another game ever played, and the Cardinals went on a 10-game win streak. So on top of the horrible teams in baseball, the Rockies being the obvious worst one, but the Orioles being a surprisingly awful team this season, and then all of a sudden, the Twins, who were really down and out of it in the early first month of the season, have now risen to near the top. And yeah, we already have some fun kind of changes of the guard, and we're only a month and a half in.
Oh, absolutely. And it is a lot of fun to be able to take a look at, because, man, how do we fade the Colorado Rockies right now? That's my question to you, because these run lines are getting out of control. As I'm looking for the Sunday game, I'm right now seeing, I believe, a -160 run line on the Arizona Diamondbacks, which actually doesn't appear bad. But, how are you trying to extract value from the stink of the Colorado Rockies? Because, boy, you're having to pay a tax right now.
Yeah, and I think the best way that I've kind of found it, and I've actually been making a lot of money on Colorado Rocky games, and I think you can find that in the margins. What we know is...
I was about to say, not their money line.
No, not their money line. Even if you take +3.5, it's likely not going to hit. But if you kind of factor that in and say, well, we know that the Rockies don't score away from Coors, and they're going on the road. Maybe they're facing a pitcher with a 6 ERA. It doesn't matter. They're not going to score over 2 runs, and has an over-under of set at 9, and you get even odds at that price as well. I think that's a perfect buy spot on an under, because, again, the Rockies are going to do their part in terms of not scoring. And on the other side of the coin, yes, Arizona could score 7 or 8, but 7 or 8 runs probably doesn't even push this thing over in a lot of these scenarios.
The Colorado Rockies on the road this season, entering into Saturday, averaging 2.2 runs per game and hitting $184 as a collective. My goodness, it is so bad with them. As I've actually been fighting that as well. Now, for Sunday, I don't know if I can quite get there, just because I do think that Chase Dollander, who's been posting up a north of 6 ERA, is going to get lit up that badly, but that has really been an angle I've been taking a look at. As we do have Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bet Show joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And with regards to some of these other teams, how do we look at, the other 14 games on the card for Sunday? And what have you all been finding with regards to teams not named the Colorado Rockies that have been cashing?
Yeah, I look at a lot of different teams. Tigers have been obviously one of the mainstays for me from the start of the year when they played the Dodgers on kind of that opening weekend or that opening day stretch, and then all the way up until, middle of May. They've been cashing left and right. I also look at the Blue Jays and their over numbers as of late. Those have been fantastic because the bullpen, the starting pitching, and their offense is starting to really showing up, but the pitching has not, and that's a perfect combination for an over. And now we're also starting to see these park factors really come alive in terms of the offensive side of things. In the early goings when you had T-Mobile games or you had games in Chicago and it was sub 40 or sub 50 with a crazy amount of wind coming in, that really lended its hand to these 7.5 unders that we were seeing. But as of late, Wrigley, even, you look at Great America Ballpark, there's a lot of warmer temperatures kind of flourishing throughout the United States right now, and that's kind of lending its hand to some of these well-known hitter-friendly ballparks really kind of going over these high totals that we're seeing of 9 and 9.5 now.
Oh, absolutely. And it is that changing of the season where these places that were very cold to start the season, it's starting to heat up just a little bit. So I think that is going to be very big to take a look at, as well as we do have Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I do think that we've got ourselves a very interesting slate for this Sunday, and that we also have ourselves some teams that are looking to be able to just stay hot. As you were mentioning it with the St. Louis Cardinals, they had that long win streak, did get busted up a little bit, but right now they're slight underdogs against the Kansas City Royals with a total of 8.5 and Matthew Liberatore pitching. How do you take a look at this one? Because I just view Liberatore as being one of the most underrated guys out there on the market in terms of starting pitchers.
Yeah, and over the last 2 years in particular, the reason why the Cardinals were kind of trying to force Liberatore into being the starting pitcher that they traded for from the Tampa Bay Rays is because of his wild breaking ball, his ability to sit mid-90s in the fastball department, and his 5-pitch arsenal. And man, it has really come to fruition this year. He was the last starter in the 6-man rotation that the Cardinals rolled out there, and a lot of people were mad that a Michael McGreevy didn't get that shot, or a Quinn Matthews didn't get that shot out of the Cardinals organization. But to your point, Liberatore right now is pitching like one of the best pitchers in all of the National League, and that's not hyperbole. That's the reality of what's kind of getting faced here. And what we know about the Kauffman Stadium, the K, when the wind isn't really at play blowing out to deep center, it's a pitcher-friendly ballpark every time. And on the other side, you have Michael Wacha, who continually goes out there, gives you 6 innings strong, and for that reason, I see a total of 8.5 out there. I really am a big fan of that total game going under.
I'm right there with you. I think that Liberatore is going to be able to give you a good start. And for the Royals, it's been rough with their offense. And how have you been looking at some of these, shall we say, more rough offenses? Because I think that there's been a lot of value recently on unders in terms of just looking at these teams and saying, hey, the Texas Rangers, guess what? They're not going to hit again today.
Yeah, the Braves are in that mix, right? Obviously the teams like the Marlins or the Giants might be in that mix there as well. Heck, even a team that's kind of slowed as of late is the San Diego Padres. And to that point there, too, when you're looking at a team like the Padres, it's so easy to say, they have a great win-loss record. They have all these stars in their lineup. I'm going to be feeling comfortable taking an over of 3.5 on their team total. And the reality is you're going to find a lot of value in actually kind of fading the Padres, I guess, in a sense. Maybe not on the outright money line, maybe not, on them to, run line the Rockies or game by game, but maybe just take that team total to go under because their pitching has been so fantastic that they really haven't needed that run support in the early goings.
No, they haven't been, and it has been interesting to be able to dive in on them, to say the least. And then another team that I think is very interesting is the Baltimore Orioles, because they canned their manager on Saturday, and it did not lead to a win on Saturday against Washington Nationals. They, as a matter of fact, got lambasted. Now they go out there with Zach Eflin going against Mike Soroka. Could this be the bounce-back spot for the Orioles? It's right around minus 160 or so favorites.
Well, at some point, baseball is a do-factor sport, and Baltimore, one thing that they kind of have as a silver lining is they typically can.
They're not the Rockies?
Yeah, they're not the Rockies, and sometimes they can get to right-handers. That's the most praise that I can kind of throw at them because their rotation is awful. And when you also look at the lineup, when they have a lefty involved, they're going up against a left-hander. That eliminates 6 of the 9 spots in their lineup that actually produce. And yeah, this has been a whole mess. I think they're the most embarrassing team in baseball. And if you also kind of wanted to say, hey, who's better right now, the Orioles or the White Sox? I think you have a real debate there, which is kind of crazy in mid-May that we're even talking about that. But to your point, in this game, I do think the Orioles can actually get one on the board and not get swept in back-to-back-to-back series. I kind of feel like, and notably in this matchup here against Soroka, if they can't get to Soroka, I have no idea in the world who they can possibly get to. So I kind of have to lay that run line price of the minus 1.5 or plus 120. I think it's a decent value play and maybe not a buy low, but just maybe a one-off bet in this type of scenario.
Yeah, it's been relatively rough to say the least for them, but you know what? I do like them in this spot as well. Zach Eflin has been one of the things that has been not awful for the Baltimore Orioles thus far this season as well. As joining me on the show, we do have Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bet Show, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And How about if we look at a little bit more of a rambunctious game? We have been looking at a lot of fades. We go to my namesake, David Peterson, taking on the New York Yankees and Max Fried. And right now I'm finding this total at an 8.5, shaded up to the over. And I recognize that Max Fried can't continue this sub 125 ERA for forever, but this just seems high in this game.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you on that total. I would definitely look towards the under in that spot. And even kind of more notably, I would actually look at a Yankees team total to go under, because what we've seen when they are playing at Yankee Stadium this season going up against left-handed starting pitching, they have kind of struggled and throughout the first 5 or 6 innings to really put some runs on the board. And so if you're wanting multiple different angles, maybe take a full game under, maybe take a first 5 under, and maybe even take a team total Yankees under as well. I think those are all really good looks, and kind of pairing those together, I actually think that the Mets are a pretty good value play going up against Max Fried if you're thinking about this game being a sort of low-scoring affair.
If we can get past a plus 150, right now seeing about a plus 145 or so, I'd be with you, as well as I do think that north of minus 160 starting to get a little bit lofty on the New York Yankees. So we shall see what we're going to be getting there. And then I want to take a look at this one as well, because we've got no total up on this game, but Colin Ray is all of a sudden a minus $3 favorite for the Chicago Cubs going up against Jonathan Cannon. And the White Sox suck this year. There's no question about it. Am I schmuck for thinking that getting the White Sox at north of a plus 250 might actually be a little bit of value?
No, Gray. This is actually my favorite play tomorrow.
All right.
Believe it or not. I am on the White Sox money line at a little bit over 2-1 odds. And to your point, Jonathan Cannon is one of the guys. This is kind of a sort of disrespected starting rotation for the White Sox, because, are there guys in here who are kind of like league average filling up the gaps? Absolutely. But a guy like a Jonathan Cannon has been very, very strong, and every single time he goes out there has pretty much given the White Sox a chance to win, as crazy as that sounds. And Colin Ray, when you look at his underlying numbers, they actually have been impressive. Even his surface numbers have obviously been impressive as well, but he is kind of due for that little bit of negative regression. And say he goes out there 5 or 6 innings pitched and gives up that four earned runs, I think that's enough of an opening for the White Sox to steal one. And again, we're talking about the value play here. I think the White Sox are 100% live for the full game money line and that first 5 money line there.
Wow, I might not be a schmuck after all. I was just like, wow, Colin Ray, a minus $3 favorite. We are getting really generous here with Colin Ray. And Rob, anything else on the board for Sunday that you're going to be taking a look at, as we've got all 30 teams in action and some really good games?
Yeah, to the point that I kind of brought up earlier about the Padres maybe not being the most heavy run producers, Brian Wu is a guy that I really want to back here in the month of May, the month of June, and probably throughout the rest of the season if something kind of changes, unless something changes rather. And when you're looking at the Mariners as a plus 120 dog, plus 125 in that range on the money line, I think that this is going to be, again, a really low scoring game. And this is also a Mariners lineup that I think can get to Michael King when you're kind of looking at the premium spots in their lineup and how they're performing right now. And for that reason, I think it's probably going to go under, but I actually like the Mariners money line play a lot more, especially with that plus money price. And that would, again, be one of my favorite plays on the board there tomorrow.
Yeah, personally, I actually do like the under a little bit more than I do like the money line, but certainly Brian Wu has been pretty solid. Michael King has been a king for the San Diego Padres as well, so I do think that we might be getting a little bit of a lower scoring game out there, and a man that scores big on this podcast is you, Rob. You do such an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, I always appreciate you having me on, man. And for those who want to follow my daily bets, on the weekends, you can find them on Twitter/X at RobDFB, and Monday through Friday on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. But as always, Greg, I appreciate having me on, man.
Absolutely. It is so good to be able to get Rob aboard every single time he joins me. He will lend such great insights and did so once again today. So big thanks to Rob for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time, the podcast that gives you picks and analysis of the game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Rob Donaldson. He does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So a big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board. The Pittsburgh Pirates walk the plank on the road to face off against the Philadelphia Phillies as Mick Abel is on the bum for the Phillies and Paul Skeens goes for the Buccos. The Pirates are between -110 to -118 favorites, and between -105 to +104 is that number on Philadelphia with a total of 8 over and under, both at -110. And with regards to Philadelphia Phillies, I did set them as a -113 favorite. Recognize that this is a first start of Abel's career. He's been solid out there at the AAA level, 253 ERA. Past years was quite suspect. He's always had good stuff, has not necessarily been able to put it together, so I'm not necessarily thinking that he's going to give the world's greatest start. And Paul Skeens has been great this year. Like with Paul Skeens, he has been one of the few things on the Pittsburgh Pirates that have not been incredibly terrible. As for the Pittsburgh Pirates right now, they're averaging 3.1 runs per game on offense. That is dead last in the big leagues, and that's a big reason why I am fading him here. Because with Skeens, 0.7 home runs, 2.5 walks per 9 innings, 2.63 ERA, feeling dependent, that matches up relatively well with it. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, I recognize that you're not getting like the Mona Lisa Vitos of bullpen pitching here. You've got Matt Strahm along with Jose Alvarado, who have been relatively solid for this team, and then past that you've got a lot of question marks with Orion Kirkering having a rough year, Jose Ruiz, guys like this just not necessarily being able to show their worth. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, it doesn't matter who's starting for them. This is a bullpen that has been one of the lesser ones out there in all of baseball. So you've got Dennis Santana, Justin Lawrence. They're both doing a relatively solid job, giving you a sub-2 ERA. But when you get into some of these shaky guys like a Joey Wentz, David Bennar, these guys have just not been great, to say the least. Caleb Ferguson is supplying a 5 ERA as well. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, man, this is just a rough lineup, to say the least. As I was mentioning it, scoring the fewest runs per game of any team in all of baseball. Oneil Cruz has been dealing with a little bit of a back issue, so it's been a little bit hit or miss, and he should be good to go here moving forward, but might be in a little bit more of a limited role. 8 home runs thus far this season, north of a 350 on base. Brian Reynolds, even though he's giving you 5 home runs, he's hitting below the Bedell's line of 200. He's been a big disappointment, but he's not the only one. The guys at the bottom of the fold, the guys like Andy Rodriguez, Jared Trollo, they have been hitting below the Bedell's line of 200 as well, and then Andrew McCutcheon has given you about a 350 on base. Flip side for the Philadelphia Phillies, it's been all about Kyle Schwarber, as Kyle Schwarber right now 15 home runs, nearly a 400 on base. Trey Turner down for what has been able to 300, but not a lot of power outside of Kyle Schwarber. You do have the 7 home runs of Bryce Harper, but Max Kepler has 5 home runs, not necessarily hitting for the world's greatest of average air. JT Realmuto's on 4 bombs. He's been okay in terms of moving line, and Nick Castellanos sitting about a 280 with 4 home runs. You could use a little bit more there, but that said, I do think that they do just enough to get to Skeens in this spot. I think that Abel is actually able to perform quite well. So I did set my total at a 7.8 here at the 8. I like the under, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Phillies money line. 903, 904 on the betting board. The Washington Generals, better known as the Colorado Rockies, are going to be on the road against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Merrill Kelly is on the bum for the Sakes. Chase Dollander is on the bum for Colorado, and right now that total is 9. The over is -120, and the under is even. And for Arizona, you're laying between -340 to -360 with them between +185 to +$3 is that number on Colorado. And my goodness, this is just rough. I'd be willing to go up to a -178 in terms of the run line here, and right now we're seeing just a few initial openers. Most places have this off the board. Right now I'm seeing a -160, and you can sign me up for that. This Colorado Rockies team has lost all but 4 of their games by multiple runs. It's really, really not good for them, and with the Colorado Rockies, they're they're just supplying no offense away from home, averaging 2.2 runs per game entering into Saturday, as you've had Jordan Beck actually at a 250 with 6 home runs for this team, but you take a look at the home and road splits, they're just very, very dramatic with this bunch. They were completely held down in game number 1 of this series when they are playing away from home right now. The Colorado Rockies as a collective going into Saturday, .184 batting average. You've got Hunter Goodman, who's got 4 home runs on the road this far this season of the team's 13 in 23 games. That's really not great. You've got Ryan McMahon, who leads the team in at-bats away from home, hitting a .145. Michael DeGlee is hitting a 130. Ezekiel Tovar has been injured all season long, hitting a 106. Jacob Stallings, Sean Borchard, both hitting below a 170. And then on the flip side, you've got an Arizona Diamondbacks team that dating back to the beginning of the 2024 campaign, they're a top 2 team in terms of offense. You've got Eugenio Suarez giving you absolutely nothing in terms of batting average, but he's been able to supply the team with a double-figure amount of homers. Corbin Carroll, he's been able to give you 14 bombs. He's supplying about a 360 on base. Lourdes Gurriel, it's been a bit of a disappointment for the team thus far, but you've got Alec Thomas, who's hitting north of a 280. You've been able to get good production out of Pavin Smith, north of 400 on base as well. So it's a very interesting circumstance here where you've got a guy in Dollander who's really not been great, coming off of actually his best start of the season. Last time out, he was able to give the team a good effort, and this is someone that coming out of the Tennessee Volunteers program was sought a very highly, 6.88 ERA overall this season, but allowed just 2 runs in that loss against the Texas Rangers. That was a 2-1 loss, and he's been giving up Mr. Dollander 4.2 walks to 2.4 home runs per 9 innings. Meanwhile, for Merrill Kelly, he's been very good at home thus far this season, at a few strikes on the road, but that said, with Merrill Kelly, he's been able to do a pretty solid job of supplying a 3.71 ERA thus far this season, 3.79 fielding dependent. His home runs per 9 rate hovering right around about 1. He's getting 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. So, interesting circumstance here. I'm going to be willing to lay the run line up to a -177 with the Diamondbacks, and did sub a total of 9.3, as I think that the Diamondbacks just get to the Rockies. So, looking at the over and that run line, 955, 956 on the betting board. It is the Houston Astros. They hit the road, they're facing off against the Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter is on the bump for Texas. Right now, it reads to be determined on the bump for the Astros. So, this game is off the board. When I was seeing this initially, they were showing Ryan Gusto being that starting pitcher, and if you do get Mr. Ryan Gusto on the mound in this one, I'd be willing to set the Astros as a bit of an underdog. I'd be setting them to where I'd be willing to take a +105 or higher on the Astros, -103 or better. We'll be willing to lay it with the Rangers, and then set a total to where in 8 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under for the Texas Rangers. This has just been an anemic offense. They are currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of runs per game, and just have a lot of guys in general that are not moving the line for you. Wyatt Langford has been able to give you 8 home runs. He's been able to do a relatively solid job, but when you take a look at the likes of Jake Berger, Marcus Semien, Jack Peterson, all these guys, 215 or lower, that's an issue. You've got Josh Smith, who's been able to 300, and when he's been out there, Corey Seager has been rock solid, but he has been dealing with injuries all season long. He got re-put on the injury list, so it's not great. Josh Young has been able to do a solid job of being able to move the line, and then on the flip side, you do have a Astros lineup that has a guy in Jeremy Pena who's been able to give you about a 350 or so on base, but they've been one of your lesser home run hitting teams in all of baseball, right around about league average in terms of their total runs per game, so they've been able to do a pretty solid job with that regard, but Yordan Alvarez being out of the lineup certainly hurts them, but even when he was in the lineup, he really wasn't giving you a whole heck of a lot. Christian Walker is starting to pick it up a little bit, but he's still been giving you less than a 300 on base. Junior Diaz is starting to hit for a little bit more average, and Jake Myers has actually been solid, hitting for nearly a 300, and then you've got Jose Altuve, who's looking a little bit washed right now, hitting below 250 with 4 home runs, but for the Astros, they do have the far better bullpen in this one, as for the old Walker Texas Rangers, it has been a little bit hit or miss with regards to this bullpen. Like when they had Mark Church out there, he was solid, but he's currently dealing with a little bit of injury. Luke Jackson is currently a little bit banged up, which that's honestly not a bad thing. You've got the likes of Robert Garcia, Sharon Armstrong, Hobie Milner, who've been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, and then for the Houston Astros, the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, both of these guys have been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. You've had Josh Hader look like the Josh Hader of old, and Caleb Ward is someone that has been very good in this bullpen as well. So it does make this a bit of an intriguing circumstance, as for the Astros, like I was saying, Ryan Gusto looks to be the starter for them, and for Mr. Gusto, he was no me gusta in the last start where he was giving up a whole bunch of runs, but overall, he's been able to do an okay job for this team. As for Gusto, the biggest attribute with him is that he really does a good job of being able to get strikeouts. 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's posting up a 4.80 ERA, but a 3.97 fielding independent. Like I said, gave up 7 runs while getting 7 outs against the Kansas City Royals. Past that has actually been pretty rock solid. And then on the flip side for Jack Leiter, he had a very nice few starts to the season, but ever since he came off the injured list. Just hasn't been quite himself. 4.34 ERA. He's got some okay swing and miss in him, but he has yet to find that in the big league level for about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's given up north of 4 walks per 9 innings as well. So it's an interesting circumstance here. I did set it to where the Rangers I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 103 with, plus 105 or higher. Looking at the Astros, and then 8 or less, I'm going to be in on the over at 8.5 or higher. I do like that total under 907, 908 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers, they are on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays, as Jose Barrios is on the bump for the Jays, and Jackson Jobe goes for Detroit. And Detroit does find themselves as anywhere between even money to minus 110 and between minus 110 to minus 112 is that number on Toronto. 8.5 is the total, over is minus 120, and the unders even. And for Jackson Jobe, he is a guy that I think has a little bit of upside here, but I just love Jose Barrios at home, and I hate Jose Barrios on the road. So I did set the Blue Jays at a minus 111. I'm not willing to go a cent past minus 110, but I'm going to be willing to lay their money line for Jackson Jobe. I do think that it's going to take him a little bit of time before he finds the sea legs at the big league level. A former top 5 pick who he's got some relatively good stuff, but has yet to be able to really uncork it here at the big league level. A 4.32 ERA, which is far from terrible, but 571 fielding dependent, 5.4 walks and 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So I think the big time regression is going to be coming with him. And then for Mr. Barrios, 4.33 ERA. He's been posting up a fielding dependent of a 4.97, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And with Barrios, he has given up 3 runs or more 2 out of his last 5 starts. So walks are really getting concerning. He's given up 3+ walks in 3 out of his last 5 as well. But that said, again, with Mr. Jose Barrios, this dates all the way back to his time with the Minnesota Twins, has been far better at home rather than on the road. 3.61 career home ERA, 4.56 ERA on the road, and at home he's giving up right around about 1 to 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, closer to about 1.4 to 1.5 home runs per 9 innings away from home. And for the Blue Jays, it has been a bullpen that has been a little bit suspect. Jeff Hoffman has really not been great for this team over the last few weeks, along with Yimi Garcia, but you've been able to get Mason Flaherty to surprisingly be able to give you some good innings. You had Brandon Little be able to rise up a little bit. The big thing for the Blue Jays is just being able to find a little bit of pop in this lineup. They're in the bottom 4 in the big leagues in terms of home runs in total, as Dalton Varsho, who began the season on the injured list, he has 6 home runs and 48 at-bats, and right now is leading the team, which I find to be hilarious. You have Vlad Guerrero Jr., George Springer, Anthony Santander, all supplying 5 home runs this far this season, a 375 plus on base out of both of those teams. Anthony Santander hitting below the Bedell sign of 200, and with Miles Straw, he's currently moved line. He's hitting about a 300. Bo Bichette has been pretty solid with that regard as well. And then on the flip side, you've got yourself a Tigers team that has been a top 3 team in the American League in terms of runs per game. So you do like to see that, as you've been able to have a pair of guys in Riley Green along with Spencer Torkelson combined for 23 home runs, with Torkelson only hitting about a 240 but a 350 on base, and Riley Green hitting for a far better average but a far worse on base. Meanwhile, Kerry Carpenter, 9 bombs. He's been hitting darn near 300. Javi Baez, after he was so miserable for so long, he and Gleyber Torres both hitting between about a 295 to a 300 as well. And for the Detroit Tigers, ever since the All-Star break of the 2024 campaign, number 1 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Lots of guys mixing and matching for this team. Brand Herter is able to give you multiple innings. Sammy Canely, Sean Gunther, Will Vest, Chase Lee, all these guys who are able to give you a sub 250 ERA. Tyler Holden is right now like the weak link at a 360. So, I mean, that has been very impressive. I did set the Blue Jays at a minus 111, though, as I do think that Jobe gives up some runs. So, I'm going to be taking a look at this Blue Jays money line, and so I told it at an 8.4. So, here at the 8.5, I do like the under 909, 910 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves hit the road. They're facing off against the Boston Red Sox. Brian Bayo is on the bump for the Sox, and Spencer Schwellenbach is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves, who find themselves between minus 120 to minus 125 favorites, plus 105 to plus 113. That number on Boston 9 is the total, over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. With the Red Sox, I did set them as a plus 114 underdog, so we're going to need to get a cent or 2 higher on that. We shall see what we're going to be getting in terms of run lines for the Atlanta Braves, as well as for Spencer Schwellenbach. He's been struggling a little bit, 3+ runs allowed in 5 out of his last 7 starts, but I do think that he's going to be able to pick it up, giving up less than 2.2 walks per 9 innings. He's been relatively solid in terms of swing and miss stuff as well, right around that neighborhood, about 8 to 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's by no means like the super duper pitching ninja or anything like that, but he's been able to do a relatively solid job with that regard. And if you're looking at a Braves run line right now, you're only getting about a plus 128, so I'd be needing to get quite a bit more there, as in terms of that Braves run line, I would need to be getting more in the neighborhood, about a plus 145, but that's it for Brian Bayo. He's been a little bit up and down this far this season, to say the least, because if you look at the ERA, you'd think that this guy is pretty amazing, but when you take a look under the hood, you've got a lot of concerns with Mr. Bayos. He's right now posting up a 2.33 ERA through his 5 starts, but a 5.55 fielding independent, getting 5.7 strikeouts and 4.7 walks per 9 innings. He has somehow, someway Houdini'd out of just a whole bunch of situations in general. I just don't see that being long-lasting. Meanwhile, for the Red Sox, it is a bullpen that's been okay, not great, not terrible. When you got Aroldis Chapman as your closer, you know that things are going to be a little bit rough there. But you know what? Liam Hendricks, he got lit up a little bit a few days ago, but he's overall been solid since he had to overcome all he did. So, I mean, shout out to him. You've got a pair of guys in Brandon Bernardino, and then you're able to throw in there Justin Wilson with a sub-255 ERA. And for the Boston Red Sox, it's been a solid lineup. It's been a little bit up and down, but you've had Alex Bregman, Weiler Abreu, both supply 11-plus home runs this season, with Abreu about a 370 on base, Bregman more around about a 390 in terms of that on base. You've had Jarren Duran have his struggles this year, not aiming for the world's worst average, but only 2 home runs this season. Trevor Story has been all over the place. He started out hot, and now he's went cold again. And then Rafael Devers, who refuses to play the field, down with his power number, 7 home runs this season, but still has been able to give you about a 390 or so with regards to that on base. And for the Atlanta Braves, they have been all over the place thus far this season themselves, especially when they've been away from home, as this is an Atlanta Braves team that's been one of the best home teams in all baseball, but when they leave their friendly confines, that's where things get relatively rough for them. As for the Atlanta Braves right now, averaging about 4.3 runs per game at home, down to about 3.65 runs per game away from home. But you've had Austin Riley do a nice job supplying the team with 8-plus home runs. He's been able to hit north of 275. Additionally, you've been able to get some good production out of the likes of a Eli White, who towards the bottom of the lineup is hitting at 260. Nick Allen as well. These guys are starting to regress as I expected, but Drake Baldwin at the catcher spot hitting at 360, man, that has been great. Matt Olson right now not hitting for a ton of average, but he is giving you 8 home runs, and Marcell Ozuna continues to give you a 400-plus on base. Relatively league average bullpen with the Atlanta Braves. Escobar Hernandez has been able to give you a sub-3.3 ERA. Dylan Lee has been rock solid, and Rossio Iglesias saw some of the best stuff in all of baseball. So it is an interesting circumstance. If we can get to a plus 114 or higher, going to be looking at that Red Sox money line, and I did set my total at 9.1, so at the 9, I'm going to be in on this total over as well. As we go to 9-12 on the betting board, it is the Baltimore Orioles. They play us the Washington Nationals. Mike Soroka is on the bump for Washington, and Zach Eflin hopes to not be Eflin awful for Baltimore. Baltimore in between minus 157 to minus 166 favors, and between plus 140 to plus 146. That number on Washington. 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. Over is minus 105. And for Baltimore, I did set them on the money line at a minus 207. I'm willing to go up to a minus 107 on this run line. I recognize that Baltimore has been awful this season, and the interim manager bump, that did not happen on Saturday, so it has been all sorts of brutality there. But that said, Zach Eflin has actually been pretty effing good this far this season. A 3.11 ERA, about a 365 fielding, depending because he's not getting any strikeouts whatsoever, but is allowing less than 2 walks per 9 innings, is only giving up about 0.8 home runs per 9. And for our good friend Mike Soroka, if you look since the beginning of the 2024 season, he is posting up a record of 0-12 with a 5 ERA, 1.4 home runs, and 4.6 walks allowed per 9 innings. And he's also backed up by a Washington Nationals bullpen that hasn't been better a little bit recently, yes, but still entered into Saturday with a 6.52 ERA. That is second worst in all of baseball. You've got a pair of guys in Jackson Rutledge and Kyle Finnegan who have been able to do a solid job of giving you some innings out there in the bullpen, but really past that, you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of some of these guys like a Jose Ferrer, Lucas Sims, guys like this. And then for the Baltimore Orioles, it has been less than savory for them, to say the least. They had to throw Charlie Morton in long relief after Kyle Gibson gave up 6 runs and got 2 outs. And for Cionel Perez, he's posting up north of a 6 ERA. Yunier Cano has just not been the same guy this year. Felix Bautista is still a relatively solid closer, but outside of he and I would say Brian Baker, you're not getting a whole heck of a lot out of that bullpen. That said, for the Baltimore Orioles, this is a lineup that, despite the fact that they're in the bottom 10 in terms of runs per game, I do think that they're going to be able to pick it up a little bit here, as Gunnar Henderson is back to hitting north of a 255. He's giving you a little bit of power. Now, it's been Cedric Mullins, Adley Rutschman who have really been laying the team down. Both of these guys hitting a 220 or less. Jackson Holiday, though, he's been moving the line. Ryan Orton is giving you 7 home runs with a nearly 390 on base. And for the Washington Nationals, James Wood, how about putting good wood on the ball with a double-figure amount of bombs, 372 on base. Keibert Ruiz, he's been able to hit about a 280 for the team. And then the likes of Jose Tena, Jacob Young, Luis Garcia, these guys are hitting between about a 225 to a 235. So with Washington Nationals, it's a case where I'm going to be willing to fade them because I do think that Eflin goes out there, gives you a good start. I'm willing to lay up to a -105 on that run line of the Orioles, and I did set my total 9.4 as well, so going to be taking a look at this total under on the 9.5 to go along with that run line. 9-13, 9-14 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road facing off against the Miami Marlins. Cal Quantrill is on the bump for Miami, and the Boz. Shane Boz goes for Tampa. Tampa is a favorite of between -144 to -150, +125 to a +135 is that number on Miami, with 8.5 being the total. Overs between -115, -120, unders between even a -105. I did set the Tampa Bay Rays as pretty sizable favorites. I made them -154 on the money line, so we shall see what we're going to be getting in terms of these run line prices as more come out. But right now, the initial one that I was seeing was right around about a +108. If we could get to a +110, I'd be willing to lay that Rays run line, and I would rather go run line rather than money line because, for one, you're getting the Rays on the road, and two, you're getting them against Cal Quantrill, and it's not been great for our good friend Mr. Cal Quantrill this season, who I still remember a few years ago. He was just such a good bankroll builder for you, and now he's, well, anything but that, as he's posting up a 7 ERA. Fielding independent is currently 5.16. He gives up about a home run and a half per 9 innings. He's giving up north of 3 walks per 9, and he's supposed to be a good command pitcher. Meanwhile, for the Boz and Shane Boz, he's been able to do a nice job of being able to keep things in line with regards to his strikeout numbers, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. You should see some positivity with his 5.02 ERA. Right now, 4.33 fielding independent is giving up a home run and a half per 9 innings. That is very suspect to say the least, but you know what? For the Miami Marlins, this is a lineup that they're really not doing a great job of taking you deep. Matt Mervis has been able to give this team some plus home runs this season, and Kyle Sowers has really been able to step up. He's been able to supply 8+ homers. His on-base percentage has been north of a 375. You've had Jesus Sanchez, so only hitting about a 220. Derek Hill, ever since he's come off the injured list, has been relatively miserable. Eric Wagaman is getting nothing whatsoever, and they had to have Xavier Edwards out of the fold yesterday too, so that's not great. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, we got Josh Lowe, who's been hitting at 375 in his small sample size this far this season, so that's pretty rock solid. Jonathan Aranda, he's been able to do a good job moving the line, giving you north of a 400 on base. He's been able to supply this team with some plus home runs. Cameron Meisner has been able to hit for about a 250, but that's starting to really regress as well, so you do have to have a few question marks there. And Christopher Morel just has not been tremendous for the team, but meanwhile for the Miami Marlins, it has been a bullpen that has been shaky to say the least. Bottom 6 in terms of bullpen ERA, even with Ronnie Enriquez giving you sub 3.3 ERA. You've got Anthony Bender who's actually giving you some nice innings with a 2 ERA, but outside those two guys, it's really an untrustworthy bunch. Jesus Sudoku, Calvin Fauché, I really don't have a lot of confidence in them. And then on the flip side, for the Tampa Bay Rays, this always is one of the best bullpens that you're going to find in all baseballs. You've got a lot of guys like Mason Montgomery, Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks that are able to do their job. Aside from Montgomery, who's right now up to a 5.74 ERA. That's been a little bit less than savory, to say the least, but Hunter Biggie has been able to do a nice job with that regard as well. So it is a very fascinating circumstance. I did set the Rays at a -154, so looking at a +110 or higher on that run line, and I did make my total an 8.4. I do think that the Boz gives you a very good start here, so I'm going to be willing to take the 8.5 under to go along with the run line of the Tampa Bay Rays. 9-15, 9-16 on the betting board. The Cleveland Guardians are on the road against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are on to Cincinnati, who's on to Andrea, but getting the start for them, and Luis Ortiz goes for Cleveland, and Cleveland is between a even money number to a +109. Meanwhile, anywhere between -118 to -125, that number on Cincinnati. 9 is the total, over and under anywhere between -105 to a -115. And I'm going to be willing to back the Reds in this ordeal, as I did set them at a -148 with Cincinnati. I do feel like this team is just much better than the Guardians right now, especially with Luis Ortiz, who, despite the fact that he's been able to give you about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, he's just been giving up a lot of hard contact in general. North of 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, giving up well above 3.5 walks per 9 as well. So there's some interesting tidbits there, and you've got a guy named Andrew Abbott, who he has been able to do a pretty solid job of being able to get swings and misses. 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.10 ERA. Fielding independence a little bit higher than that, but still he's backed up by a lineup that is far better with regards to being able to put bat to ball. You've got a guy in TJ Friedel who's been able to north of 275, along Gavin Lux. Ellie De La Cruz is able to give you 8+ home runs this season. You do have a few guys that have been hit or miss. Reese Hines has been recalled from the minor league level, but overall for the Cincinnati Reds, they've been pretty solid with regards to run scoring, and very interestingly, they've actually been much better when they have been on the road rather than at home with regards to their scoring. That's because they had that outlier of a 24 spot against the Baltimore Orioles a few weeks ago, but that said, on the flip side, you do have a Cleveland Guardians team that has had Kyle Manzardo do a nice job of being able to put bat to ball. He's right now giving you 11 plus home runs this season. And Jose Ramirez, after a little bit of rough COVID, he's back up to being able to hit darn near 300 thus far this season. For the Cleveland Guardians, you've been able to get a little bit more towards the bottom of the lineup, but you still have these guys like a Nolan Jones, Bo Naylor, John Kenzie Noel, ranking below the Bedell sign of 200. Carlos Santana, he's been giving you about a 325 on base, but that batting average has not necessarily been the world's greatest for him. Stephen Kwan, meanwhile, has made about a 325, and you do have Cade Smith along with Hunter Gaddis, who have been able to supply a sub-275 ERA, but Tim Aaron has been rocky in this bullpen, and has been less than tremendous, to say the least, what you've been able to get out of Manu Clase this season. I was never necessarily a stan of Paul Sewell, but him going on the injured list really hurts his team, and now you're matching with the likes of Joey Cantillo and company, and on the other side for the Cincinnati Reds, right around about 11th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Not going to call it amazing, and you did have to use up a few arms after Brent Suter was pretty much used as an opener plus yesterday, but still, you've been able to have these guys like Graham Ashcraft, like Emilio Pagano. I do have my question marks with, still Tony Santia and guys like this will be able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. I do think that for the Reds, they should be able to do a nice job taking it to the Cleveland Guardians in this ordeal. I did set them at a minus 148, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line, and I did make my total a 9.3, so here at the 9, I'm in on the over. 9-17, 9-18 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins are on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers, as Freddie Peralta is on the bump for the Crew, and Zebby Matthews is on the bump for Minnesota. 8 is the total. Unders minus 120, the overs even, and on the Brewers, they're minus 160 to minus 165 favorites. Plus 145 is that number on Minnesota. If we can get past the plus 145, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them for this Brewers team. It's been a little bit wobbly, to say the least, in terms of the lineup. Sal Friedlich, Bryce Terang have both been able to hit above a 270. Both of these guys do a nice job of being able to swipe bags, but you're just not getting a ton of power out of guys other than Jackson Chiriot along Christian Yelich, both being able to supply 7 plus home runs apiece, but you do have a guy in Yelich who's hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200 thus far this season, so that has been a little bit less than amazing. And then when it comes to Freddie Peralta, he's been able to give you some still solid swing and miss stuff, but we have seen a big giant drop-off with him ever since really the beginning of part of last season, as he's only giving you about 9.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. That is tracking to be a career low for him. He's been able to supply about a 266 ERA, about a 346 fielding dependent, so I have to wonder how real that's going to be. And for the Brewers, I do think that there's going to be positivity coming for that bullpen, because they were number one in the National League last year in terms of ERA, and Abner Uribe has actually been their best bullpen piece as far this season, as you bring back some of these guys like Yo Payamps, Elvis Figueroa, though they had a few of those guys get sent down to the minor league level, so now they're looking at Nick Mears, who's been able to do a solid job, but Trevor McGill's still there, Jared Koenig, guys like this, and I do think that for the Milwaukee Brewers, they're going to be able to do an okay job of being able to supply some better innings there, but I do think that for Zebby Matthews, there's going to be a little bit of upside with him after he was very brutal last season with the Minnesota Twins. As for Zebby Matthews, last year he supplied a 6.69 ERA. That is very nice across his 9 starts. If you're looking at what he's done at the minor league level this season, though, he's been able to do a relatively solid job of atoning for that. A sub-2 ERA with St. Paul, and he's been able to get 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And even with the Minnesota Twins last season at the big league level, he was supplying north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He was just giving up a whole bunch of hard contact. And for Minnesota, right now riding that massive win streak into Saturday, and for the Twins, you've just had a bunch of guys in general be able to step up now. Byron Buxton is currently on the 7-day injured list, so that hurts him quite a bit, but do have Trevor Larnach, who's been able to give you 7 home runs. Brooks Lee, along with Ryan Jeffers, are starting to move the line a little bit more. These two guys, along Ty France, enter into yesterday in between about a 240 to a 252. Harrison Bader has been able to hit about a 300 or so it does lead to a very interesting circumstance. And if I could get a plus 146 or better with the Twins, I'll be looking at them on the money line. And I did set my total at 8.2. I do think that with having Buxton out of the fold, that's going to hurt this Twins lineup a little bit, but I do think that both of these teams get a little bit of offense going, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over to go along with the Twins at a plus 146 or higher. 919, 920 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals at the road, they're facing off against the Kansas City Royals. Michael Waka, and if he gets lit up, he becomes a dying Pac-Man voice. Michael Waka, 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 goes for the Royals, and Matthew Liberatore is on the bump for St. Louis. 8 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. Seeing quite a few 8.5s popping up as well, with the 8.5 under is minus 120, and the over is even. And with the Royals, they're between minus 113 to minus 118 favorites. They're between minus 102 to a plus 104 is that number on St. Louis. And for the Cardinals, I did set them at a plus 116, so I'd be willing to go up to a minus 115 here with the Royals, so going to be looking at their money line, but I do like this total under as well. We were talking about with Rob Donaldson for Liberatore. Liberatore. He's really been able to step up in this rotation, as he last season was a little bit more of a bullpen, sort of a hybrid guy, and for Matthew Liberatore, he's been able to take that next stride forward, as he's supplying the team with 3.11 in terms of his ERA, but the fielding independent actually goes down to a 2.30. 1.4 walks, 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Not necessarily a strikeout artist, but still getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And Michael Wacha, very far from a strikeout guy himself. He's only going to give you right around about 7 to 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but still has been able to do a nice job of being able to supply a sub-3 ERA. He keeps things out in front of him, as he's only allowing about 2 home runs in his first 51 plus innings of the season. And for the Royals, this has been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had Carlos Estevez, Lucas Ursich be a really nice 8th and 9th inning duo, but on top of that, Steven Cruz has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Anel Zerpa has been relatively shaky, to say the least, but Daniel Lynch has been a relatively good long guy as well. For the St. Louis Cardinals, this team has been right around about league average in terms of bullpen ERA. Ryan Elsley is starting to pick it up after a bit of a rough start to the season. Kyle Leahy has been able to give you sub-2 ERA as well. You've had a few of these guys like Jojo Romero Company start to act up a little bit, but that said, I do think that for the St. Louis Cardinals, they're going to have a tough time in general doing their part with regards to this total, mainly because you do have a hit or miss lineup with Brendan Donovan hitting above a 300. Victor Scott has been able to give you a 275 plus with regards to that on-base percentage, but for the Cardinals, you just don't have as much power as you're used to, as Nolan Arenado has taken a big giant drop off there, as he's only given the team about 4 home runs this season. So about a 326 on base. You've had Lars Nootbaar supply 7 home runs, about a 370 on base, and getting back Ivan Herrera, who he had 4 home runs in the first 10 games of the season. That's going to be helpful for them. So I do think that this is a circumstance where you're going to be seeing a bit of a lower scoring slug. So my total is 7.8. I like the under with the Royals. Willing to lay up to a minus 115 on their money line. 971, 972 on the betting board. It is the Chicago White Sox on the road against the Chicago Cubs, as the Jonathan Cannon is on the bump for the White Sox, and you've got old Colin Ray saying hip hip hooray to another start for the Cubs. And right now the total's off the board since it is a Wrigley Field game, but between minus 288 to minus 305, that number on the Cubs, and right now you're finding anywhere between plus 245 to a plus 257 in terms of the underdog in the Chicago White Sox. And I'm right there with our good friend Rob Donaldson with regards to that White Sox money line, as Jonathan Cannon has been pretty solid this year. He's posting up at 3.60 ERA. He's not blowing you away with amazing strikeout stuff or anything like that, but it's a whole heck of a lot better than it was a season ago. He's been able to give this team right around about 7 strikeouts, so 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, so I do think that he's going to go out there, land a relatively solid performance that we were both talking about with Colin Ray. I just don't see him being able to keep up this 2.48 ERA. Right now, the fielding depends at 3.32. Only giving up about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, but also allowing a little bit north of 7 strikeouts per 9 innings as well. So you need to get him to be able to give you a bit more swing and miss, and the conditions should be helping out the pitchers in this one. It looks like the wind is going to be blowing in right around about 7 to 10 miles per hour, so that leads to a very intriguing, shall we say, total with regards to this one, as I did set my total to wear a 7.5 or less. I'm going to be taking a look at the over and an 8 or higher. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under, especially with the fact that you got a Chicago White Sox team that we're going to call it what it is. It has been a little bit less than savory for their offense thus far this season, as you've had Andrew Benintendi be able to give you 5 plus home runs, but he's currently landed on the injured list. You've had a lot of guys just trying to mix and match in this lineup in general. Miguel Vargas has been able to give you 5 plus home runs, but other than Lennon Sosa, not a lot of guys are hitting above a 240 for the team. And then for the Chicago White Sox, it's been a bullpen that has been, shall we say, not necessarily the world's greatest, as well as Brady Eisert has been having his struggles, to say the least, this season. You've been able to get some good innings out of Mike Vasil. Has become a little bit of a long guy for the team. He's playing a sub-2 ERA. Jared Schuster, though, he's providing north of a 70 ERA. Cam Boucher, Penn Murphy, these guys have been all over the place. And for the Chicago Cubs, you've got Daniel Palencia supplying a sub-125 ERA. And Brad Keller's been okay in that bullpen as well. Porter Raj, he's a little bit of a, shall we say, turnstile in terms of giving up runs, but for the Chicago Cubs, Pete Crow Armstrong, double-figure amount of homers this season with north of a 285 average. You've got Mr. Dansby Swanson, who's been able to give you now 10 home runs this season. His average back above a 250 after a miserable start to the season. C.A. Suzuki, double-figure amount of bombs. So, 1 through 9, other than Vidal Bruin, for this Chicago Cubs team has been pretty solid, especially Deco Horner being able to move line. hitting north of a 280, and I do think that for the Chicago Cubs, they're going to be able to do an okay job of getting to Jonathan Cannon, considering the conditions with the wind blowing in right around about 10 or so miles per hour. So circumstance where I'm going to be looking at a 7.5 or less to the over, an 8 or higher to the under, but being able to get this big of a mono number, I'm going to be taking a shot on the White Sox, set them at a plus 234. As we go to 923, 924 on the betting board, the Athletics are going to be on the road going up against the San Francisco Giants. Justin Verlander is on the bump for the Giants. Jeffrey Springs goes for the Athletics, and the A's, who find themselves anywhere between plus 124 to plus 127 underdogs, minus 135 to minus 148. That number on San Francisco with 8.5 being the total. The under is minus 110 to a minus 115. Over is between minus 105 to a minus 110. And for the Giants, I'm going to be willing to lay with them. Set them at a minus 157. For the Athletics, it's just been all over the place for Jeffrey Springs this season, and he is backed up by a bullpen that has been very much less than savory thus far this season. For the A's, they're currently a bottom 6 team with regards to bullpen ERAs. Mason Miller was so good for them last season. He's been having some issues in the bullpen. You've actually had Justin Cerner be able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but for Springs, it's just been, in general, a case where he has not been able to keep the ball in the yard. Much of that because of the fact that he's pitching out there in Sacramento, but he's giving you only about 7 strikeouts, 4.1 walks per 9, and he's right around about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 as well, which is not the world's worst mark. He's been able to work on that just a little bit, but still not necessarily a place where you want to be. And then he's backed up by that bullpen of guys like a Noah Murdoch, who's right now giving you just nothing whatsoever. And on the flip side, for the San Francisco Giants, this team continues to be in the top 3 in terms of bullpen ERA. Hayden Birdsong has been a really good long guy with a sub-2 ERA. You've been able to get all sorts of production out of Eric Miller as well. So these guys have been able to combine very well to help out Camilo Duvall, who's becoming the closer that we all expected him to be. Now, in terms of the Giants lineup, do have still a few question marks with them. Willie Adames was paid so much in the offseason and has yet to deliver too much. And even though Matt Chapman has been able to give you north of a 350 on base, not hitting for a ton of average, hitting right around about a 222, 225. Homer Flores is up to 10 home runs, so he's having himself a nice season thus far. Give you about a 265 average with that regard. Jungle Lee, he's done a nice job of being able to hit north of a 285 as well. And then bottom of the fold, these guys like Patrick Bailey, Lamont Wade Jr., they do need to pick it up a little bit. And for the Athletics, you've got 1 or 2 dead bats in the lineup, but overall it's a pretty stout lineup as you've got Brent Rooker, a couple of Tyler Soderstrom, both be able to give you 10 home runs apiece. Soderstrom has slowed down a little bit recently with regards to power numbers, but still has been pretty rock solid this season. You've got Lawrence Butler, who's been having his issues along JJ Bleday, both of these guys hitting below a 225, but you've got Miguel Andujar, who's hitting above a 300. You've got Shea Langoliers, and Shea is banged for 8 home runs with north of 325 on base as well. And Justin Verlander, certainly not the guy that we all once remember, but he's still relatively okay in terms of getting strikeouts. For Justin Verlander, right now he's been able to supply the team with about 7.5 strikeouts to 3 walks per 9 innings. The home run at per 9 innings is a big reason why that 4.31 ERA is backed up by a 4.66 fielding dependent, but I have a little bit more faith in he than Jeffrey Springs and feel like the bullpen that backs him up. So I did set the Giants at a minus 157. I'm looking at that money line, and I also did set my total at an 8.2. So here at the 8.5, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under as well. 925, 926 on the betting board. It is the LA Angels on the road facing off against the Dodgers as Tony Gonsolin is on the bump for the Dodgers. Yusei Kikuchi, I say he's starting for the Angels, and 9 is the total. Over and under, both at minus 110, and with the Dodgers, anywhere between minus 230 to minus 250 is that number on them. You're going to be getting between plus 205 to plus 210 as that number on the LA Angels. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the LA Dodgers right now, they are a minus 118, and I'd be willing to go up to a minus 123. For Tony Gonsolin, honestly, my most favorite pitcher in the world, as in a small sample size, he's been okay, but we've seen in past years the fielding dependence been a full point higher than the ERA, but thus far this season, he's been able to come off the injured list and has been very serviceable for them, and that's what the Dodgers need right now, because you still have Freddie Freeman, who's been giving you north of a 400 on base. He's done a nice job of supplying 8+ home runs in a small sample size. You've had Shohei Ohtani be one of the best hitters on the face of planet Earth once again. Andy Paz is giving you north of a 280 average. He's been able to supply the team with 6+ home runs as well, and you do have a few struggles out there. Max Muncy and company have been a little bit hurt, but that said, you've been able to get some really good production out of Gonsolin thus far as he's posting up a 285 fielding dependent with about 12 strikeouts per 9 innings in a small sample size. Meanwhile, you do have a starter on the flip side in Yusei Kikuchi, who I say that he has been relatively rough recently. As for Yusei Kikuchi, right now at 3.72 ERA, but that's backed up by a fielding dependent that's far around to 4.63, 1.3 home runs, 4.1 walks allowed per 9 innings, and for the Angels, it's not any better with regards to this bullpen. Ryan Zephyrian is able to give you a 4.75 ERA or better, but pretty much everyone else has seen at least 6 innings thus far this season is supplying north of 5 ERA. Kenley Jansen has been all sorts of rough for this team. You just have not been able to get anything whatsoever ever since Ben Joyce has went on the injured list. Brock and Roll Burke has not been great. And for the Angels, this is one of the worst teams in terms of their overall batting average. Now, they've got quite a bit of power. Mike Trout being on the injured list does not help them, but still have Taylor Ward, who's been able to give you 10 home runs. You got Kyron Paris, who's been able to give you 6 bombs as well, but both of these guys hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Logan Hoppe, he's hitting for about a 250, but that's been going downward. He's been able to give you about 9 home runs this season. Zach Neto, 6 home runs, 275 average since coming off the injured list and about 100 at-bats. That's something that you do like to see in Jorge Soler. He's been able to give you 6 bombs as well, but he's not really doing a great job moving the line, getting on base either. And for the LA Dodgers, I do think that this is going to be some nice domination of a guy in Yusei Kikuchi. I thought that after that nice second half of the season last year over with the Houston Astros that he was all of a sudden going to be able to find it, just has not been able to do so. 3.72 ERA, but the fielding dependence more around a 4.63. The 4 walks per 9 innings, very, very concerning with him, and I think that he's going to be taken out of this game early, and that means that you get much more of the LA Angels bullpen, and that allows the LA Dodgers, who they themselves have been a little bit suspect with regards to their bullpen. You've had a pair of guys in Ben Casparis, allowing Jack Dreyer be able to give you sub 3.25 ERA, but you've been a little bit hit or miss with Alex Vesia this season, having the likes of Bruce Starter, Gradwell, Blake Tryon, and company on the injured list. That does hurt them a little bit, and that should be able to help out with regards to this total. Just a skoge. I set my total at 9.2, so at the 9, I'm going to be taking a shot on the over. And for the Dodgers, we'll delay up to a minus 123 on that run line. 927, 928 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners hit the road. They're facing off against the San Diego Padres, says Michael King hopes to be the king for the Padres, and Brian Wu says woohoo to another start for Seattle. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. Between minus 135 to minus 142 is that number on San Diego. Between plus 120 to plus 125 is that number on Seattle. And with the Mariners, I did set them at a plus 144, so I'm going to be willing to go up to a minus 142 with regards to the San Diego Padres money line. For the Padres, they should be able to get a lot out of Mr. King, who has been able to dole out about 10 strikeouts and less than a home run allowed per 9 innings, and he is backed up by a bullpen that does rank in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. For the Padres, you've had a lot of guys being able to mix and match in this bullpen. Andre Motohone is able to give you a little bit of length, but when it comes to the likes of Jeremiah Estrada, Alec Jacob, Jason Adams, these guys have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Additionally, Yuki Matsui has been able to give you about a sub 2 ERA as well. You've had Robert Suarez be one of the better closers in all baseball, and then you've got a lineup that has been locked, loaded, and ready for bear. Getting back Jackson Merrill relatively soon is rock solid for this team, as he's been able to give the team 4 home runs in his first 72 at-bats of the season, has been in and out all season long, so that's helpful. Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting above a 300 with 11 home runs has been amazing. You don't necessarily have a lot of guys outside of him that are supplying the deep ball. Gavin Sheets has been able to give you 5 home runs, as Manny Machado just 3 bombs, but he's been able to hit north of a 330. Luis Ariz, he's come off the injured list, and now he's back to hitting a 300 as well. Jason Hayward has been a miserable disaster for this team, but I mean, bad said, this has been a unit that has been able to do a nice job of putting up some offense. And then for Seattle, this has been a top 3 team in the American League in terms of run creation, as you've got big dumper Cal Raleigh, who's been able to give you 14 home runs this season. JP Crawford has been able to give you about a 385 on base, and Raleigh is up to a 371 on base. Not necessarily for the world's greatest average, and that's a lot of guys on the Seattle Mariners team, but you've got Dylan Moore hitting a 290 with 7 home runs. Jorge Polanco hitting for about a 375 on base, 10 home runs as far this season. And Julio Rodriguez, after a rough start to the season, he's starting to pick it up as well, but this is also a Seattle bullpen that they're in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, albeit they are benefited a little bit by the fact that Seattle is so pitcher friendly that it's not even funny, but Andres Munoz has yet to give up a run this far this season in that bullpen. Gabe Spire has been able to give you sub 3 ERA. Colin Sider has been shaky. He's been giving you about a 4 ERA, and Edward Bizardo has been very shaky as well, but that said, I do think that both of these guys are going to be able to light it up for a good start, as Mr. Wu has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, but the fielding independent has actually been a little bit better than the ERA. The fielding independent is right now sitting about a 268 ERA, more in that neighborhood of about a 284, only allowing 0.7 home runs and 1.4 walks per 9 innings. So I do think that you're going to be able to get some relatively solid pitching in this one, but again, with Seattle, they have been able to do a nice job with regards to that offense. I do think that for San Diego, you're going to experience a little bit of regression with regards to King's numbers as well. He's got a fielding dependent that's starting near a full point higher than his ERA as well. So it is a circumstance where I did set my total at 7.9. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. And for the Padres, I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 143 on that money line. We're going to have things up with 929, 930 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are going to be playing us the New York Metropolitans as David Peterson, great name, is on the bump for the Mets, and Max Fried goes for the Yankees. Yankees are between minus 160 to minus 170 favorites, between plus 142 to plus 148. That number on the Mets with the total of 8.5. The over is minus 120 and the under is even. And with the Yankees, I did set them on the money line at a minus 153. So we're going to be waiting to see what we get with regards to the dime lines, as right now I'm doing this with more of the 20-cent spreads. But that said, if you're looking to lay run half with the New York Yankees, earliest number that I saw was about a plus 120 on them. So with the Mets, I'll probably be on them in some form or capacity. If I could even get like a minus 130 in terms of getting a run half, I would actually be very interested in that, as David Peterson has been able to do a really nice job this season. Last year, I felt like he was a little bit of a lucky pitcher. He wasn't getting a whole bunch of swings and misses, but somehow, some way was getting bailed out of a lot of innings. Thus far this season for Peterson, a 3.05 ERA, but backing that up with a fielding dependent more around about a 3.55, 8.5 strikeouts, and allowing less than a home run per 9 innings. And for Max Fried, this guy has been just absolutely dominant. How about a sub 125 ERA? Now that fielding dependent is starting to hover right around about 3. He's not necessarily some sort of strikeout artist. He's only been able to get about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is not bad, but it's not like it's super duper dominant. Not what you'd expect from a guy with this low of an ERA, and he does have to face off against a Mets lineup that has been one of the best out there in baseball. You've got Juan Soto, who's been able to give you 4+ home runs over the last 2 weeks. He's obviously returned home to face off against the team that he was on a season ago, but Francisco Lindor, along with Pete Alonso, both 9+ home runs this season. Both of these guys have been hitting north of a 285, with Alonso north of 400 on base. Luanel Acuna has been solid to move a line, not giving you any home runs, but hitting about a 265. Luis Torrens, when he's been at the catcher spot, it's been a mixed bag between he and Francisco Alvarez, but both of these guys doing a pretty solid job finding way on base. And for the Mets, this has been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. As a matter of fact, a top 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA, as you've had Reed Garrett be really good in this bullpen, posting up a 1 ERA along with Oscar Barzobin. You've had Max Chronic start to give up a few runs, but Jose Buto in a long roll giving you a sub 3 ERA as well. And Edwin Diaz, after a shaky start to the season, has been quite a bit better. Flip side, you've got a Yankees bullpen that has Devin Williams, who's been less than tremendous to say the least. Ian Hamilton, they were expecting some good innings out of him. Thus far, that has not been the case, but you've had Luke Weaver be absolutely dominant, posting up a sub 1 ERA. Tim Hill has been able to give you some okay innings, but it's all about what you've been able to get out of Fernando Cruz along with Yuri De Los Santos, a sub 275 ERA. And for the New York Yankees, you've got plenty of power out of Aaron Judge. How about north of a 480 on base and 15 home runs? And then George Grisham throws in there 12 home runs. He's hitting about a 275. Cody Bellinger, along with also Anthony Volpe, after rough starts of the season, are starting to pick it up. Both of these guys hitting right around about a 245. Paul Goldschmidt not giving you the same amount of power that he typically does, but north of a 385 on base as well. So it's a very interesting circumstance with the Yankees. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 152 on that money line. We'll see how things materialize there, but right now I do think that my best bet is probably going to be taking a shot on the New York Mets if we can get to a plus 154 or higher, which I do think that when it's all said and done, we are going to be. So most likely going to be looking there. And then I do like the under. I set my total at 7.8, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind there's they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And big thanks to Rob Donaldson with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets for joining me in the last segment. And I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.